December 16, 1944, Ardennes Forest, Belgium. The German offensive exploded through American lines with a fury no one had anticipated, panzers, artillery, and machine gun nests materializing from the frozen forest like nightmares made steel. Corporal Jack Morrison watched through his rifle scope as his battalion, 3rd Battalion, 394th Infantry Regiment, was being systematically shredded. 3 German MG-42 machine gun positions had the Americans pinned in a valley with no cover, no escape, no chance. "Morrison, pull back!" Lieutenant Dawson shouted over the radio. "That's an order! We're retreating to the secondary line!" Jack didn't move. Through his scope, he counted the situation. MG-42 at 2 o'clock, 400 yards. MG-42 at 11 o'clock, 350 yards. MG-42 at 1 o'clock, 500 yards. 3 positions forming a perfect kill zone. 800 American soldiers trapped below, dying in clusters as they tried to advance or retreat. "Morrison, did you hear me? Fall back, now!" "Negative, sir." Jack's voice was calm despite his racing heart. "Someone needs to take out those guns. Battalion can't move with that crossfire. That's suicide. You can't hit 3 positions from your current location. You'd need to—" "I know what I'd need to do, sir." Jack adjusted his scope, calculating angles, distances, exposure times. "Going silent. Tell my mother I tried." "Morrison, don't you dare!" Jack switched off his radio. He was 24 years old, a farmer's son from Iowa with a gift for shooting and a problem with authority. He'd been court-martialed twice, once for disobeying orders during a reconnaissance mission, once for insubordination. Both times his superiors had decided his skills outweighed his defiance. Not this time. This time he was going rogue completely. Through his scope, Jack studied the German positions. All 3 MG-42s were dug in, protected by sandbags and positioned to create overlapping fields of fire. Standard defensive doctrine, brilliant, murderous, and nearly impossible to defeat from a single position, nearly. But Jack had noticed something. The rightmost position at 1 o'clock, it had a slight angle flaw. If he could get to that ridge 200 yards closer, if he could take out the rightmost gun first, the other 2 positions would have to adjust their fire. A 3-second window, maybe 5 if he was lucky. 3 to 5 seconds to sprint across open ground, set up, and take the second shot before the remaining MG-42s tore him apart. Suicide, absolutely suicidal. Dawson was right. But 800 men were dying in that valley. 800 men who'd go home to families, to farms, to futures, if someone could just eliminate those 3 guns. Before we discover whether Jack's impossible gamble would succeed or get him killed, tell us where you're watching from. Are you in the USA, Europe, or somewhere else following this intense story? We love connecting with viewers who appreciate these acts of desperate heroism that changed battles. Jack slung his M1903 Springfield rifle, the sniper variant he'd nicknamed Liberty, and began moving. Not down toward his battalion, not back toward safety. Laterally through the frozen forest, toward that ridge that offered a 0.001% chance instead of absolute 0. The snow was deep, the cold brutal, his boots crunching too loud. German patrols were everywhere. He was one man, alone, disobeying direct orders, attempting something that would either save 800 lives or add his name to the casualty list. "You always were too stubborn to live," he muttered to himself, his father's voice echoing in memory. "Gonna get yourself killed with that Morrison pride." "Maybe, Pa," Jack whispered to the ghost, "but not before I take those guns with me." He reached the ridge in 15 minutes. 15 minutes while MG-42s below him continued their murderous work. 15 minutes while American boys died waiting for orders, for reinforcement, for miracles. Jack set up his position. Distance to first target, 220 yards. Angle, compensate for elevation and wind. The cold made his hands shake, or maybe it was fear. Didn't matter. The shake was minimal, manageable. He chambered around, controlled his breathing, found the rhythm between heartbeats, when the body goes still and the world narrows to crosshairs and target. First shot had to be perfect. Had to kill the gunner instantly, create confusion, buy him the 3 seconds he'd need to sprint, dive, set up for shot 2. "Liberty, don't fail me now," he whispered. The German gunner shifted, adjusting his aim. For a half-second, his head was exposed between sandbags. Jack squeezed the trigger. The Springfield barked. Through his scope, Jack saw the German gunner's helmet snap back. The MG-42 went silent, one down. Jack was already moving before the shot's echo faded, sprinting downhill through snow, Liberty clutched in one hand, survival a distant third priority behind speed and positioning. The 2 remaining German positions realized something was wrong. Their guns swiveled, searching for the threat. Jack dove behind a fallen log, slid into position, chambered another round in one fluid motion. His heart hammered, his breath fogged. He had maybe 2 seconds before those MG-42s found him. Through his scope, second position, 380 yards, gunner visible, finger on trigger, turning toward Jack's position. Jack fired. The second gunner dropped, 2 down. The third MG-42 roared to life, bullets chewing through the log inches from Jack's head, splinters exploding, the sound like the world ending in metal and rage. Jack rolled right, found minimal cover behind a boulder, and realized his situation had gone from suicidal to hopeless. The third gun had him pinned. He couldn't move without being shredded, couldn't retreat, couldn't advance. Could only lie there while German infantry reinforcements closed in, while his battalion below remained trapped, while his gamble dissolved into pointless sacrifice. "Should have listened to Dawson," he muttered, chambering his third round. But then something impossible happened. The third MG-42 fell silent. Jack risked a glance. Through his scope, he saw the reason. A German officer had appeared at the third position, shouting orders, gesturing toward Jack's location. He'd stopped the machine gun fire, not out of mercy, but because he wanted Jack taken alive. "They think I'm a forward scout," Jack realized. "They think there's more behind me," which gave him exactly 1 chance. Jack shifted position, found an angle. The German officer was standing fully exposed, arrogant in his assumption of tactical superiority. 380 yards, crosswind, target moving. Jack squeezed the trigger. The officer collapsed. Chaos erupted at the third position, soldiers shouting, diving for cover, unsure where the shot came from, uncertain how many American snipers were in the forest. Jack didn't wait. He sprinted toward the third position while they were confused, covering ground in desperate lunges, Liberty ready, counting seconds until they recovered and filled the air with lead. He closed to 150 yards. 100. 75. The MG-42 crew recovered, swiveled the gun toward him. Jack dropped, fired from prone position, working the bolt, firing again, rapid fire, accuracy sacrificed for volume, for suppression, for buying 1 more second of life. His 4th shot took the gunner. His 5th hit ammunition boxes, sparking, igniting, the position erupting in secondary explosions as German ordnance cooked off. Silence fell. 3 MG-42 positions, neutralized. Jack lay in the snow, shaking, unable to process that he was alive, that his suicidal sprint had somehow succeeded, that 800 American soldiers below now had a chance to advance or retreat without being cut down. His radio crackled. He'd turned it back on without realizing. "Morrison!" Dawson's voice was shocked. "Morrison, was that you? Did you just take out all 3 guns?" "Yes, sir," Jack managed, his voice hoarse. "Guns are down. Valley is clear. Advise battalion to move now before German reinforcements arrive." "You disobeyed direct orders." "Yes, sir." "You went on a suicide mission." "Yes, sir." Silence on the radio. Then, "You saved 800 men, Morrison. Court-martial can wait. Get back to our lines. That's an order you'd better follow." Jack struggled to his feet. Liberty clutched in frozen hands and began the long walk back through a forest that was somehow quieter now, as if the guns themselves had decided to rest after witnessing something impossible. Behind him, 3 German machine gun positions smoldered. Ahead, his battalion was moving, surviving, living because one renegade sniper had been too stubborn to accept impossible as an answer. His father's voice echoed again. "Morrison pride's gonna get you killed." "Not today, Pa," Jack whispered. "Not today." Jack made it back to American lines 20 minutes later, hypothermic, shaking, running on adrenaline fumes. Medics draped him in blankets while Dawson stood nearby, expression caught between fury and disbelief. "You're the luckiest son of a bitch I've ever met," Dawson said once the medics cleared Jack. "Or the craziest. Haven't decided which." "Can't it be both, sir?" "Shut up, Morrison." Dawson pulled him aside, voice dropping. "Do you understand what you did? You disobeyed direct orders during combat. That's not court-martial territory anymore. That's execution territory. I saved the battalion." "That doesn't matter. Military discipline exists for a reason. If every soldier just did whatever he thought was right, we'd have chaos, anarchy. You can't just—" Dawson stopped, ran a hand through his hair. "The problem is you're right. You did save them. All 800. Captain Reeves is writing you up for a medal. Probably the Distinguished Service Cross, maybe higher, while also recommending execution." Jack's Iowa drawl carried bitter humor. "While also recommending a psych evaluation and disciplinary action. You're a loose cannon, Morrison. The best shot in the regiment, maybe the best in the division, but you don't follow orders. You take insane risks. You treat war like it's personal instead of strategic." "It is personal, sir. Those 800 men, they've got mothers, sweethearts, kids back home. Making them survive seems pretty strategic to me. Survival isn't your decision to make. That's what commanders are for." Dawson lowered his voice. "Between us, I'm glad you did it. You saved my men. But officially, I have to report the insubordination. Colonel's decision what happens next." Jack nodded. He'd known the cost when he switched off the radio. The battalion had moved to a defensive position 3 miles back, a small Belgian village called Rewrote that sat on a crossroads. German panzers were pushing hard, trying to break through to Antwerp. Every hour mattered. Every position held delayed the offensive. That evening, Captain Reeves summoned Jack to the command post, a partially destroyed farmhouse that smelled of smoke and mud. "Corporal Morrison reporting, sir." Reeves was 40, greying, exhausted. He studied Jack with the expression of a man solving a complicated equation. "Sit." Jack sat. "Lieutenant Dawson filed 2 reports about you today. One recommending you for the Distinguished Service Cross. One recommending court-martial for disobeying direct orders during combat." Reeves tapped the papers. "Quite the contradiction." "Yes, sir. Do you have anything to say in your defense?" "No, sir. I disobeyed orders. Facts are facts." "Why? And don't give me that saving the battalion line. Every soldier wants to save their unit. Most follow orders while doing it. What makes you different?" Jack was quiet for a long moment. "My brother, sir, Tommy. He died at Kasserine Pass, North Africa. His unit got pinned down by German artillery. Officers ordered a retreat, but the route they chose was exposed. Tommy was rear guard. He got cut down covering the retreat. I'm sorry for your loss." "But that doesn't explain." "The officers who ordered that retreat survived, got promoted. My brother got a coffin and a flag. And I swore that if I ever had the chance to make a tactical decision that saved American lives, I'd take it, regardless of orders, regardless of consequences." Jack met Reeves's eyes. "I'm not trying to be a hero, sir. I'm trying to make sure other people's brothers come home." Reeves was silent then. "That's the most insubordinate thing I've heard all war, and probably the most honest." He stood, walked to the window. Outside, soldiers dug defensive positions in frozen ground, preparing for the German counterattack that would inevitably come. "Here's my problem, Morrison. You're right. Your tactics today were brilliant. Suicidal, but brilliant. You identified a vulnerability, exploited it with precision, and saved 800 men. If every soldier had your instincts, we'd win this war in a month." He turned back. "But if every soldier had your disregard for orders, we'd lose in a week. Military effectiveness requires discipline, hierarchy, obedience. You can't just have lone wolves making tactical decisions based on personal vendettas. I understand, sir. Do you? Because here's what I'm going to do. I'm forwarding Dawson's medal recommendation. You earned it. You're a hero. But I'm also assigning you to Lieutenant Sarah Chen's intelligence unit. She needs a sniper for reconnaissance missions. Deep penetration, minimal support, maximum independence. Turns out your insubordination problem is actually an asset for missions where following orders is impossible because there's no one there to give them. Jack blinked. You're promoting me? I'm isolating you where your talents are useful and your defiance is expected. Chen's unit operates behind enemy lines. No radio contact for days. Officers who can think independently and make tactical decisions without command authority. Sound familiar? Yes, sir. Report to Lieutenant Chen tomorrow at 0600. She'll brief you on the mission. And Morrison? Reeves's voice hardened. This is your last chance. You disobey Chen's orders, and she will give you orders. You're done. Executed, imprisoned, or dishonorably discharged. Your choice, but you don't get to be a renegade twice. Understood, sir. Reeves handed him new orders. Dismissed. And Morrison, thank you for saving my men, even if you did it the wrong way. Jack stood outside the command post, new orders in hand, and wondered if he'd just been promoted or sentenced to death by bureaucracy. Behind enemy lines, deep penetration, no support. It sounded either like freedom or suicide, probably both. Lieutenant Sarah Chen was 31, Taiwanese-American, a linguistics expert fluent in German, French, and Flemish. She'd been recruited by Army intelligence straight out of Berkeley, and she ran her unit with precision that made regular infantry look chaotic. "Corporal Morrison," she said when Jack reported at 600. "The renegade sniper. Heard quite a bit about you. Mostly that you're either brilliant or insane. Leaning toward insane, ma'am. Good. Sane people don't survive what I'm about to ask you to do." Chen spread a map across the table. "We've identified a German command post 8 miles behind enemy lines. Small village called Faymonville. They're coordinating the panzer advance. If we can disrupt their communications, it could slow the offensive by days, maybe long enough for Patton to arrive with reinforcements." She pointed to positions on the map. "The command post is here, heavily guarded, at least a company of infantry, probably SS. Getting in is one problem. Getting out is worse. They'll know we're coming the moment we strike." "What's the mission exactly?" "My team goes in, plants charges on their radio equipment, destroys their communications capability. Your job is Overwatch. You position yourself here," she tapped a ridge overlooking the village, "and you make sure my people get in and out alive. That means neutralizing sentries, covering our retreat, and buying us time if things go wrong." "How many on your team?" 4. "Me, Sergeant Kowalski, Private Davis, and Private Yamada. You've met Yamada. He was with the Nisei Battalion before transferring." Jack knew the Nisei units, Japanese Americans fighting for a country that had imprisoned their families. If they could handle that contradiction, they could handle anything. "When do we leave?" "Tonight, 2200 hours. We move under darkness, hit the command post at 0300 when they're least alert, exfiltrate by row 400. You'll be on that ridge alone for 3 hours, cold, exposed, no backup. Can you handle that?" "Done worse yesterday, ma'am." "I heard, taking out 3 MG-42 positions with suicide tactics." Chen's expression was unreadable. "That kind of bravery is admirable. It's also exactly what gets people killed on intelligence missions. This isn't about heroism, Morrison. It's about precision, patience, following the plan even when instinct screams to improvise." "Can you do that?" "Honestly, ma'am, I don't know. My track record suggests no." "At least you're honest." Chen almost smiled. "Here's the deal. My team's lives depend on you following orders, not improvising, not going rogue, not deciding you know better than the plan. If I say hold fire, you hold fire, even if every instinct says shoot. If I say retreat, you retreat even if it means leaving us behind. Understood? Ma'am, with respect, I'm not leaving anyone behind. Then you're not coming. This mission requires discipline, not cowboy heroics. Chen's voice was steel. I need a sniper who follows orders. If that's not you, tell me now. Jack thought about Tommy, about the officers who'd ordered the retreat that got his brother killed, about the 800 men he'd saved by disobeying Dawson. Then he thought about Chen's team, 4 soldiers whose survival depended on someone watching their backs, someone reliable. I can follow orders, ma'am, for this mission, but if the plan goes wrong, if your team's in danger, I'm making tactical decisions. That's the compromise. That's insubordination. That's reality. You're taking me because I'm the best shot in the regiment. But part of being the best is knowing when to follow the plan and when to improvise. You can't have one without the other. Chen studied him for a long moment. You're either going to save my team or get them killed. I haven't decided which. Join the club, ma'am. Most of my officers can't decide that either. Dismissed. Gear up. 2200 hours. Don't be late. Jack spent the day preparing, cleaning Liberty, checking ammunition, reviewing the map until he'd memorized every approach, every escape route, every position where German sentries might be stationed. Private Yamada found him at 1900 hours. Morrison, right? The guy who went renegade yesterday? That's me. I heard you saved the battalion. That's good shooting. Yamada sat beside him. I also heard you got court-martialed twice. That's bad discipline. Can't argue with that. Look, I'm saying this as someone whose family is in an internment camp right now because America decided Japanese faces meant we couldn't be trusted. Discipline is how we prove them wrong. Discipline is how we show we're not the enemy. You going rogue? That reinforces every stereotype about soldiers who don't follow orders. So you're saying I should have let 800 men die to preserve good discipline? I'm saying there's a reason Chen emphasized following the plan. Intelligence missions aren't like combat. One improvisation, one deviation, and the whole operation collapses. People die, not just you, all of us. Yamada stood. Tonight we need you to be reliable, not heroic, just reliable. Can you do that? Jack didn't answer immediately, because he didn't know. He'd built his entire military career on being unreliable, on trusting his instincts over orders, on believing that his tactical judgment was better than his superiors. But Yamada was right. This wasn't about him. This was about 4 soldiers who'd volunteered for a suicide mission and needed to know their sniper wasn't going to improvise them into graves. I'll follow the plan, Jack said finally. Unless the plan fails, then all bets are off. That's not reassuring. It's the best I've got. Yamada shook his head. You're going to get us all killed, or I'm going to get you all home. Depends on the day. At 2200 hours, Chen's team assembled. They moved out in darkness, 5 shadows crossing frozen terrain toward enemy territory, toward a German command post that didn't know it was about to be hit, toward a mission that would either cripple the Panzer offensive or end with 5 American bodies in Belgian snow. Jack followed at the rear, Liberty in hand, and tried to convince himself that following orders was possible, that trusting the plan was enough, that he wouldn't have to go renegade again. But deep down, he knew the truth. Plans failed. Orders didn't account for reality. And when the moment came, when Chen's team was in danger and the tactical situation demanded improvisation, he'd do exactly what he'd done before. Whatever it took to bring everyone home, even if it meant defying orders, even if it meant another court-martial, even if it meant dying in the attempt, because that's what Morrison pride demanded. And Morrison pride, as his father always said, was going to get him killed. Just not yet, not tonight. The approach to Faymanville took 3 hours. Moving slowly, avoiding German patrols, crawling through snow that left them soaked and shivering. Jack split off from the team at 0100 hours, heading to the ridge that would give him overwatch of the village. The position was exactly as Chen had described, elevated clear sight lines, approximately 400 yards from the command post, perfect for a sniper. Also completely exposed, with no cover and no escape route if Germans discovered him. Jack set up Liberty on a snow-covered rock, arranged his ammunition, and settled in to wait. The cold was brutal, 15 degrees, wind cutting through every layer. He couldn't move, couldn't generate heat, could only lie there and become part of the landscape while his core temperature slowly dropped. Through his scope, he watched Chen's team approach the village. 4 shadows, moving with precision, using cover, advancing in leapfrog formation. Professional, disciplined. Everything Jack wasn't. The German command post was a 2-story building in the village center. Sentries patrolled in pairs, 6 guards visible, probably more inside. The radio antenna on the roof broadcasted their position like a flag. Chen's team reached the perimeter at 0245. Jack's job now, eliminate sentries silently, create a clear path for the team to plant explosives and escape. First sentry, 380 yards, standing near the command post entrance, smoking a cigarette. Jack calculated wind, elevation, temperature effects on trajectory, chambered around, controlled his breathing despite the cold, making every breath painful. Squeezed the trigger. The German collapsed without sound. Jack worked the bolt, chambered the next round, found the second sentry who was turning toward his fallen comrade. Second shot, second sentry down. Chen's team moved forward. Jack tracked them through his scope while simultaneously scanning for additional threats. Third sentry appeared on the roof, probably a lookout. Distance 420 yards. Angle elevated. Target partially obscured by radio equipment. Jack adjusted. Waited for the sentry to move into the open. 5 seconds. 10. 15. The sentry shifted. Jack fired. The man dropped. Chen's team reached the command post entrance. Kowalski picked the lock while Davis and Yamada provided security. Chen signaled Jack with a flashlight. 2 blinks. Mission proceeding on schedule. Then everything went wrong. A German patrol, 4 soldiers on a routine circuit, rounded the corner 30 yards from Chen's position. They froze, surprised, reaching for weapons. Jack didn't hesitate. 4 rapid shots, working Liberty's bolt faster than seemed possible. 4 Germans down before they could raise rifles or shout alarm. But the damage was done. The shots had been loud. Germans inside the command post would investigate. Chen's team had maybe 90 seconds before the building erupted with armed soldiers. Jack watched through his scope as Chen made the decision, abort or continue. She chose continue. Kowalski finished the lock. The team slipped inside. Jack could only wait, scope trained on the entrance, ready to provide covering fire for their escape. 60 seconds passed, 70, 80. German soldiers emerged from barracks adjacent to the command post, at least 20 men, weapons ready, moving toward the building Chen's team had just entered. Jack's tactical situation became clear. The team was trapped inside with explosives they needed 3 minutes to plant. Germans were surrounding the building. In approximately 180 seconds, Chen's team would emerge directly into overwhelming force. Following the plan meant watching them get captured or killed. Going renegade meant creating a diversion, drawing German attention, giving the team a chance to escape. Also meant certain death, 20 Germans against 1 sniper at 400 yards. No contest. Jack thought about Yamada's words. We need you to be reliable, not heroic. Thought about Chen's orders. If I say hold position, you hold position even if instinct says move. Thought about Tommy dying because officers followed a plan that didn't account for reality. Sorry, Lieutenant, Jack muttered. Plan just failed. He shifted position, aimed not at German soldiers, but at the building adjacent to the command post, the barracks where reinforcements were still emerging. Fired through a window. The round hit something flammable. Oil lamp, ammunition, fuel storage, and the building erupted in flames. Germans scattered, shouting, disorganized, responding to fire rather than the command post. Jack worked Liberty methodically now, shot after shot. Not trying to kill Germans, trying to create chaos, targeting equipment, vehicles, anything that made noise and drew attention away from the command post. The radio antenna on the roof. He hit its base, weakening the structure. Second shot brought it crashing down in a shower of sparks and metal. Fuel drums near the barracks. 2 shots, both drums exploding, spreading fire. German officers emerged from buildings trying to organize response. Jack dropped 3 of them in rapid succession. Complete chaos. Germans running everywhere, fighting fires, searching for the sniper, convinced they were under assault from a full American unit. Chen's team emerged from the command post at Aero 310, explosives planted, moving quickly toward exfiltration point. Germans were too disorganized to stop them, too focused on the fires and the mysterious sniper to realize the real mission had been inside. Jack covered their retreat, shot after shot, keeping Germans pinned, disoriented, ineffective. Then his position was compromised. A German spotter identified his muzzle flash. Machine gun fire tore through his ridge position, bullets chewing rock and snow. Jack rolled left, found minimal cover, kept firing even as rounds impacted around him, not trying to survive anymore, just buying Chen's team more time, more distance, more chance at escape. His radio crackled. Chen had turned it on despite mission protocols. "Morrison, what the hell are you doing?" "Creating a diversion, ma'am. Get your team clear, that's an order." "You don't give me orders." "Today I do. Move, Lieutenant, I'll hold them here." "Morrison, you'll die." "Probably, but your team won't. That's the deal." Jack fired again, dropping a German officer organizing the response. "Tell Yamada I'm sorry. Tell him sometimes reliable means making sure everyone else gets home, even if you don't." "Morrison, go." Jack switched off the radio. He had maybe 5 minutes before Germans either flanked him or called in artillery. 5 minutes to sell his life as expensively as possible. Liberty was hot now, barrels smoking despite the cold. Jack fired until the rifle needed to cool, then drew his sidearm, a .45 automatic, and kept shooting. German soldiers closed in. 50 yards, 40, 30. Jack prepared for the end, hoped Chen's team had made it clear, hoped the mission was worth it. Then something impossible happened. American artillery opened up. Massive barrage, shells landing on German positions with precision that suggested forward observers had been calling in coordinates. The German advance faltered, soldiers diving for cover as 105mm shells turned their positions into craters. Jack's radio crackled again, different voice this time, Captain Reeves. "Morrison, you crazy son of a bitch. We heard the firefight, sent artillery support. Get out of there before those Germans recover." Jack didn't wait for a second invitation. He grabbed Liberty, abandoned his position, and ran through forest that had become a hellscape of artillery and small arms fire. He made it back to American lines at 4:05, hypothermic, exhausted, ears ringing, but alive. Chen's team was waiting. They'd made it back safely, mission successful, command post destroyed. "You disobeyed orders," Chen said. "Yes, ma'am." "You went renegade." "Again." "Yes, ma'am." "You saved my team's lives." "That was the idea, ma'am." Chen stared at him for a long moment. Then incredibly she smiled. "Morrison, you're either the worst soldier or the best soldier I've ever commanded. I genuinely can't tell which. Can it be both, ma'am?" "Apparently it has to be, because that's what you are, a disciplinary nightmare who gets results through means that should get you executed but somehow work anyway." She handed him a canteen. "Get warm. Get checked by medics. Then report to Colonel's tent. He wants to see you." "Am I being court-martialed or decorated?" "Both, probably. You're a hero and a problem. The army hasn't figured out how to deal with that yet." Jack drank from the canteen, tasting coffee cut with something stronger. Around him, Chen's team was checking equipment, debriefing, celebrating survival. Yamada approached. "You saved us." "I disobeyed orders. Like you said, bad discipline. Sometimes bad discipline is good tactics." Yamada extended his hand. "Thank you for bringing us home." Jack shook it. "Any time, just maybe don't rely on me following the plan next time." Don't worry, after tonight Chen will build plans that assume you'll go renegade. That's just Morrison doctrine now. Jack laughed, exhausted, delirious, still processing that he'd survived another impossible situation through tactics that should have killed him. His father's voice echoed, "Morrison pride's gonna get you killed." "Not yet, Pa," Jack whispered to the dawn. Apparently Morrison pride's also good at keeping other people alive. Colonel Marcus Hayes was 53, a West Point graduate who'd commanded troops since North Africa. He sat behind a field desk in his command tent, studying Jack with expression that mixed admiration, frustration, and tactical calculation. "Corporal Morrison, sit." Jack sat. "In the last 48 hours, you've saved a battalion by disobeying direct orders, accepted assignment to intelligence as alternative to court-martial, then immediately disobeyed intelligence orders on your first mission. Do I have the facts right?" "Yes, sir. Lieutenant Chen's report says you created a diversion that allowed her team to complete their mission and escape. She's recommending you for the Silver Star. She's also recommending disciplinary action for violating operational protocols." Hayes tapped the reports. "Once again, you're a hero and a problem simultaneously." "Seems to be my specialty, sir." "Don't be glib. This is serious." Hayes stood, walked to a map of the Ardennes. "We're facing the largest German offensive since Normandy. Every position matters. Every decision has consequences. I need soldiers I can rely on. Soldiers who follow orders. Soldiers who don't improvise their way through tactical situations like they're making it up as they go." He turned back. "But I also need soldiers who win, who save lives, who accomplish impossible missions through means that shouldn't work, but somehow do. And you, Morrison, are the most effective soldier in my command despite being the least obedient. Thank you, sir, I think. It's not a compliment, it's a problem." Hayes sat again. "Here's reality. The German offensive is breaking through everywhere. We need scouts, snipers, intelligence operatives who can work behind enemy lines with minimal support. We need exactly the kind of independent thinking, improvising, insubordinate soldier you are. That's the only reason you're not in the stockade." He pulled out new orders. "There's a German supply convoy moving through the forest northeast of here. Intel says it's carrying ammunition for their panzer divisions. If we can destroy it, we cripple their offensive for at least 48 hours. Maybe longer. What's the mission, sir?" "You and a small team will infiltrate, identify the convoy's route, and guide in air support for the strike. This requires deep penetration, 15 miles behind enemy lines. No radio contact, no support. You'll be on your own for at least 36 hours. Team composition. You pick anyone in the regiment who volunteers. But Morrison?" Hayes's voice hardened. "This time, you're in command. You're responsible for mission success and team survival. That means following your own tactical judgment, because there won't be anyone there to give you orders. Also means accepting the weight of command. Every decision you make affects lives. Every improvisation has consequences. Can you handle that?" Jack thought about the 800 men he'd saved, about Chen's team, about Tommy dying because officers made the wrong call. "Yes, sir, I can handle it." "Then pick your team. Briefing at 1400 hours. Mission launches tonight at 2000. Hayes handed him the orders. "And Morrison, this is your last chance. You succeed, I'll recommend you for officer candidate school. You fail, or you get your team killed through reckless improvisation, you're done. Executed, imprisoned, or dishonorably discharged. No more chances. Understood?" "Yes, sir." "Dismissed." Jack stood outside the tent, new orders in hand, and realized he'd just been given command. Not punishment, not court-martial, command, which meant someone, Hayes, Chen, someone, believed he could lead. Or they'd decided the best way to deal with Morrison's insubordination was to make him responsible for his own decisions. Either way, he had a mission, and he needed a team. He found Yamada first. Private, I'm forming a recon team for a deep penetration mission, 15 miles behind German lines. Probably suicidal. Want in? You're asking me to volunteer for another Morrison special? Pretty much, Yamada laughed. You saved my life twice now. Figure I owe you one. Count me in. Next, Sergeant Kowalski from Chen's team. Sarge, I need someone who knows explosives, someone who won't panic under pressure, someone who doesn't mind working with a commander who improvises constantly. Kowalski grinned. You had me at improvises constantly. When do we leave? By 1300 hours, Jack had his team. Yamada, Kowalski, and Private First Class Emily Carter, a radio operator who'd volunteered specifically because someone needs to keep you from getting killed through poor communication. Hayes briefed them at 1400. Convoy is expected to pass through this sector tomorrow at 0800. You'll position here, ridge overlooking the route. When you've confirmed the convoy, you'll signal air support with colored smoke. P-47s will handle the rest. After the strike, you exfiltrate as fast as possible before Germans realize what happened. What if the convoy doesn't come? Carter asked. Then you wait. Missions authorized for up to 72 hours. After that, you're assumed KIA, and we write very apologetic letters to your families. Cheerful, sir, Jack said. Realistic, Morrison. This is a high-risk mission with low probability of everyone coming home. But it's also critical to slowing the German offensive. Your choice? Volunteer knowing the risks, or step down and I'll find someone else. All 4 volunteers stayed. Good. Dismissed. Get your gear. 2,000 hours. They moved out at dusk, 4 soldiers crossing into German-held territory with maps, compasses, weapons, and the understanding that they were completely on their own. Jack led them through frozen forest using terrain for cover, avoiding roads where German patrols moved. By midnight, they'd penetrated 5 miles without contact. By 0300, they'd reached the observation ridge. The position was ideal. Elevated, clear view of the road below, forested cover for concealment. Jack set up a perimeter. Carter, establish comms check with base. Yamada, Kowalski, defensive positions. We'll rotate watch in 4-hour shifts. Convoys expected at 800. Let's make sure we're ready. But 800 came and went. No convoy. 0900. Nothing. By noon, Jack was questioning the intelligence. Maybe they changed routes. Maybe the convoy doesn't exist. Maybe we're sitting here for nothing. Or maybe they're delayed, Yamada suggested. German logistics aren't exactly reliable right now. Carter suddenly stiffened. Movement. South approach. Not the convoy. Foot patrol. 12 Germans, heading this way. Jack swore quietly. They're doing route security, probably sweeping for exactly what we are, American scouts. Do we engage? Kowalski chambered around. Negative. We can't give away our position before the convoy arrives. Everyone down. Total silence. Let them pass. The 4 Americans pressed into frozen ground, covered by snow and brush, as German soldiers moved within 20 yards of their position. Boots crunching, voices speaking German, close enough that Jack could have touched them with Liberty's barrel. The patrol passed without detecting them. Carter released a breath she'd been holding. That was too close. It's going to get closer, Jack said. If they're running route security, the convoy's coming. Could be hours, could be days. We wait. They waited. 1400 hours. 1600. Sunset approached. Jack was beginning to think they'd spend another night when Carter suddenly grabbed his arm. Morrison, multiple vehicles. South Road. Heavy engines. Jack raised his binoculars. Through the trees he saw them. 12 German trucks, 4 half-tracks, probably a battalion's worth of ammunition and supplies. That's our convoy, he confirmed. Carter, get on the radio. Call in the airstrike. Yamada, Kowalski, prepare for fast exfiltration the moment those planes arrive. Germans will know where the strike came from. Carter radioed coordinates to American Air Base. Strike confirmed. P-47s inbound. ETA 6 minutes. 6 minutes felt like hours. The convoy moved slowly, winding through the forest road. Perfect targets for air attack if the planes arrived before the convoy passed through the kill zone. 5 minutes, 4, 3. Jack heard them before he saw them. The distinctive roar of P-47 Thunderbolts, 4 aircraft diving from cloud cover, rockets and machine guns blazing. The convoy erupted in flames, trucks exploded, ammunition cooked off in cascading detonations. German soldiers scattered, dying, burning, screaming. "Move!" Jack shouted. "Germans will send reinforcements. We need to be gone before they arrive." The team abandoned their position, sprinting through forest, as behind them the sky burned and ammunition exploded like the end of the world. They'd accomplished the mission, destroyed critical supplies, delayed the German offensive. Now they just had to survive the retreat, which, Jack realized as German machine gun fire erupted ahead of them, was going to require more Morrison-style improvisation. "Here we go again," he muttered, raising Liberty. And the real fight began. German reinforcements blocked their retreat route, at least 20 soldiers with machine guns. Jack's team was trapped between the burning convoy and fresh enemy troops. "We can't fight through that," Yamada said, assessing the situation. "Then we don't fight through. We go around." Jack studied the terrain. "That ravine, 50 yards east, provides cover, leads back toward our lines." "That's a 4-mile detour through heavy German presence," Carter protested. "Better than direct confrontation." Jack led them toward the ravine, using smoke from burning vehicles as concealment. They moved fast, low, silent. German soldiers were everywhere, responding to the convoy attack, searching for American spotters. Jack's team slipped through gaps in their search pattern like ghosts. 2 hours later, exhausted and frozen, they crossed back into American lines. Hayes was waiting. "Convoy destroyed. Intelligence confirmed. German offensive delayed at least 72 hours. Well done." "Just following orders, sir," Jack said with a slight smile. "Liar. You improvised constantly, but it worked. Again." Hayes handed him new insignia. "Congratulations, Sergeant Morrison. You've earned that promotion through sheer stubborn survival." Jack stared at the sergeant's stripes. Responsibility, authority, everything he'd avoided. "Don't look so worried," Hayes said. "You're still a renegade, just a renegade with more people depending on you now." January 1945. The German offensive stalled. American forces counterattacked. Jack's reputation grew, the sniper who saved battalions through impossible tactics. But recognition came with scrutiny. A reporter embedded with the division wanted Jack's story for stars and stripes. "No interviews," Jack told Hayes. "I'm not a hero, just lucky. You're both. And soldiers need heroes right now. Morale is critical." Hayes ordered him to cooperate. The interview was painful. Questions about tactics, about going renegade, about disobeying orders. "You violated direct commands multiple times," the reporter pressed. "Aren't you worried about setting a bad example?" "I'm worried about American soldiers coming home alive. Sometimes that requires breaking rules. Sometimes rules get people killed." Jack's Iowa drawl was sharp. "My brother died because officers followed a bad plan instead of adapting. I swore I'd never let that happen if I could prevent it." The article portrayed him as a maverick hero, celebrated and controversial simultaneously. Letters arrived from Tommy's former unit. "Your brother would be proud. You're doing what he couldn't, saving people through tactical courage." Jack kept the letters, reading them on nights when guilt about Tommy became unbearable. Hayes called him in again. "Washington's interested in you. They're considering new tactical doctrines based on your improvisation methods, small unit independence, decentralized command, trusting soldiers to make battlefield decisions." "That sounds dangerous, sir." "It's revolutionary, and it's based on watching you succeed when conventional tactics failed." Hayes smiled slightly. "You're changing how we fight wars, Morrison, whether you wanted to or not." February 1945. Jack trained new snipers, teaching them not just marksmanship, but tactical independence. "Rules matter," he told his students, "but understanding why rules exist matters more. When the situation changes, when the rule doesn't fit reality, you adapt." That's not insubordination, that's combat intelligence. His students included Private Lucas Webb, 18 from Texas, eager and reckless. "How do you know when to break rules?" Webb asked. "When following them gets people killed. When your tactical assessment contradicts orders. When you're willing to accept court-martial for being right." Jack paused. "But understand the weight. Every time you disobey, you're gambling lives, yours and others. Better be damn sure you're right." The war moved into Germany. Jack's unit was assigned to advance operations, scouting enemy positions, identifying targets. During one mission, Webb panicked, fired at a German patrol when he should have held position. The shots gave away their location, triggered a firefight. 2 Americans died. Webb survived. Jack found him afterward, sitting alone, holding his rifle, tears streaming. "I killed them, Martinez and Cooper. They're dead because I didn't follow your orders." "Yes." Jack didn't soften it. "You made a bad tactical decision. People died. That's the weight of breaking rules. You thought you knew better. You were wrong. Now you carry that. How do you live with it? By making sure it matters, by learning, by never making that mistake again, by honoring the dead through better decisions moving forward." Jack sat beside him. "I've killed people through bad calls too. American and German. That weight doesn't disappear. But you don't let it paralyze you, you let it teach you." Webb was discharged shortly after. Psychological trauma. Combat broke him. Jack wondered how many soldiers he'd influenced into taking risks they weren't ready for. How many had tried to be Morrison without Morrison's instincts. The doubt stayed with him. April 1945. Germany was collapsing. American forces pushed deeper into the Reich. Jack's unit entered a small town. Population fled, resistance minimal. They found a concentration camp on the outskirts. Not the large ones that made headlines. A small facility. Maybe 300 prisoners, Jews, political dissidents, barely alive. Jack had heard rumors, had dismissed them as exaggeration. Now he stood in hell made real. Skeletal bodies, mass graves, the smell of death overwhelming. "Jesus Christ," Yamada whispered. "This is what we were fighting." Jack thought of every German soldier he'd spared, every patrol he'd let pass, every moment he'd chosen minimal force. "Should have killed more of them," he muttered. "No." Yamada's voice was firm. "What they did doesn't change what we are. We're not executioners, we're soldiers. There's a difference." But the doubt gnawed. Had his mercy toward enemy soldiers enabled this? Had his tactical restraint prolonged the war, extended suffering? Hayes found him that evening. "You're questioning every decision you made." "Shouldn't I? If stopping this required being more ruthless. You saved 800 American soldiers. You completed critical missions. You brought your teams home. That's what you could control. You're not responsible for Nazi atrocities." Hayes's voice softened. "War makes us doubt everything. Makes us wonder if we did enough, were ruthless enough, sacrificed enough. But you did your job with honor. That matters. Does it? When this is what we were fighting? Yes. Because how we fight defines us as much as what we fight against. You preserved humanity, yours and your soldiers, while defeating inhumanity. That's victory. Not just military victory, moral victory." Jack wanted to believe that, wanted to think his choices had mattered positively. But standing near those mass graves, the certainty that made him break rules, that made him trust his instincts, it all felt hollow. Maybe following orders would have ended this faster. Maybe Morrison pride had cost lives he'd never see, never count, never know about. The doubt would never fully leave. May 1945. Germany surrendered. The war in Europe ended. Jack survived, scarred, decorated, haunted. He returned to Iowa, to the farm, to his mother who'd lost one son and gotten one back broken. "Tommy would be proud," she said, looking at his medals. "Tommy would be alive if I'd been there," Jack replied. "No, Tommy would be dead either way. But you honored him by saving others. That's enough." Jack tried civilian life, farming, quiet, normalcy. But nightmares persisted. Guilt didn't fade with peacetime. He attended Webb's funeral. The young sniper had committed suicide months after discharge. Couldn't live with the weight of his mistakes. "Could have been me," Jack told Yamada at the service. "Should have been me." But it wasn't. You survived because you learned to balance instinct with discipline. Webb never learned that balance. Yamada squeezed his shoulder. Don't waste his death feeling guilty. Honor it by teaching the next generation better. Jack became a consultant for Army training, teaching tactical flexibility, when to follow orders and when to adapt. His methods became doctrine. Trust trained soldiers. Allow battlefield independence. Balance discipline with initiative. Years later, a military historian interviewed him. "You're credited with changing modern infantry tactics. Small unit independence, adaptive command. Do you think your insubordination was justified?" Jack thought for a long time. "I think 800 men went home to families because I broke rules. I think some of my students died because they broke rules badly. I think rules matter, and breaking them matters, and knowing the difference is what separates good soldiers from reckless ones. Do you regret your choices?" "Every day, but I'd make them again. Because the alternative, following orders that get people killed, that's worse than risking court-martial for being right." That's not a satisfying answer. War doesn't provide satisfying answers, just choices, and living with consequences. Jack died in 1983. His funeral was attended by hundreds, soldiers he'd saved, students he'd trained, families of men who came home because one renegade sniper trusted his instincts more than orders. His tombstone was simple. SGT, Jack Morrison, 1920-1983. He saved more than he killed. That's enough. And in army training manuals, in tactical doctrine, in lessons taught to every generation since, Morrison's legacy persisted. Sometimes the most disciplined thing a soldier can do is know when discipline needs breaking. Sometimes survival requires renegades. Sometimes following orders means knowing when to disobey them. And sometimes, just sometimes, Morrison pride isn't about dying for principles. It's about making sure others live despite them.